6 other places that we are having on-site projects. So I'm just focusing myself related to museum library materials, of course, and our expertise lies in not just paper and archival documents, but also related to other museum artifacts. It can be paper, wood, metal. You have composite materials such as paintings and nagas. So we roughly work on almost all the materials available in the Indian society. So the title of the presentation is somewhat very comprehensive, but also very thoughtful. If we look after preservation and conservation, those two words are used almost simultaneously. But often when we come to practice, both of these words have very vast meanings. Just to go after, we actually tell in preservation that we preserve something for the future. And for conservation, it's actually what we do to save the present so that it can be preserved for the future. So those two things, when we apply in practical, becomes a two different disciplines as altogether. These are some of the examples of how we can preserve. Mostly this comes under the ambit of what we call as preventive conservation, that you don't actually interfere with the object, but you interfere around the object so that the object remains intact for the next generation as well. So these are some of the examples, just to say that it's basically housekeeping or maintenance around the object or the collection so that it does not face any kind of damage or deterioration. When we go for the same term, conservation, it actually represents all the actions that's around the object, but that is currently arresting damage to the object. Something that is currently ongoing. Suppose you have a furniture that's infested by termites. Suppose you have an ongoing mold infestation. Suppose you have pest infestation. So if you don't arrest the mold or the pest today, after 5 weeks or maybe 1 month, your book or maybe your furniture won't be as the same. So at that point of time, there is no point in going for conservation because a part of it is already lost. So this is the difference between preservation and conservation. And I guess I don't need to speak about, yeah, these are somewhat what the examples of conservation may lie if you're not able to say or share. So the weave pattern is gone. You can replicate it if you have an image, but the original strings will be gone forever. Same goes for your paintings. Some of them, such as ceramics, can be glued back together. We say consolidation. But often, what something is lost can be lost forever. And the library materials, of course, we don't need to say about it. You have books, manuscripts, letters, papers, legal documents, but also in the growing digital age, you have a growing of digital data in terms of your audiovisual archives. You have microfilms, you have ebooks, you have publications that are being put up in the cloud. So when we talk about library materials in the 21st century, we also need to focus not just on the physical collection, but at the same time go for the digital ones as well. It's probably a little bit easy to focus on the physical collection because it's something you can hold off. When it comes to digital collection, you can see the collection, but if in case it's wiped off by a mistake, by a disaster, by anything, there is no point in getting it back because you cannot do it. You can take this bottle back and maybe pop it into shape, but so online databases are just like numbers in analogs. You have 0, 1 string values, and it's a PDF uploaded online. But in case the PDF is erased from the database from the main server, it's very little that you can do it. You can try to piece in a book or maybe a document, but for a digital data, you cannot find fragments of it lying anywhere. Once it's gone, it's 100% gone. So just to set the tone that how difficult it can be. It may seem very simple for museum materials, but also it's difficult starting with the digital age. So we just discussed this point that if it's just paper and other books and documents, but if we see the internet, libraries also have various other kinds of materials and not just limited to books, papers and documents. In fact, most libraries would not find it easy to declare because they have a policy that they should look after certain kind of collections. But suppose if someone had donated, so these are the publications. It's from the website of British Library. So in British Library, they have the collections of other materials that are not quite what we call as library materials. But since they have been bestowed upon to the collection, so also we need to sometimes care about other materials as well in the library. So this is just the viewpoint. Suppose I don't have the picture, but in one of the Australian libraries, they have a full taxidermy of a bison sitting in the basement of a library. You have books around, but you have a bison just standing. It won't make any sense, but since they have donated the collection, it becomes part and responsibility of the librarian to take care of it. The librarian may be trained to take care of books and manuscripts, but are we qualified enough to train, like how to keep a bison free from pest and everything? So that's something we should always think about. Yes. So the main thing in order to understand preservation and conservation, we also need to understand what kind of damages are there and what causes the damages. So I'll just simply walk through some of the visual glossaries, and if it's around, I guess. Mostly in libraries we talk of most common, if we talk about Indian context, because of the tropical climate, we say that its humidity is the major concern, that you have high RH all the time, and that what leads to the damages. This is a very common statement that we hear across. And the possible recommendations suggested by most people is you have a 24 hours HVAC system, or maybe a AC, working air conditioning system. But if we look upon the areas, or maybe the type of budgetary implications for smaller institutions, it's not feasible that you keep on running a 24 hours AC. So we also need to think about what are the other alternatives if you are not able to afford a HVAC system that runs 24/7, because environmentally it's causing other problems as well. I'm not going there, but also in terms of budget, like electricity bills for maybe a 10,000 bookshelves would be a too much of a monthly budget for a small scale museum or maybe a library or archives. So that also needs to be thought about. Just some images of the visual glossary of what aggressors, we call it aggressors basically, that what exactly it is. So various institutions have various parameters of understanding what aggressors can be. This is from Canadian Conservation Institute. They look after the 10 agents of deterioration. So that's their terminology, that they have 10 agents: physical forces, dissociation, incorrect RH, incorrect temperature, light and UV, pollutants, pests, water, fire, and criminals. And the same, if you want to go it in a more advanced manner, it's from Robert Waller. So they see it in terms of risks. So what CCI have done in physical forces, they have, it's a little bit small, but I guess in here, physical forces, you have type 1 and type 2 and type 3. So physical type 1 is something like an earthquake. The entire building collapses and then you have total chaos. Physical force 2 may be something like your bookshelf collapses, maybe improper furniture. Type 3 may be what we call it as mishandling, that you do while transportation, while packing, your books are damaged. So if you go further, you would be able to focus on what the exact risk and damages are. And if we go for ICROM, so this is what they term as aggressors. So different institutions, different terminologies, but the focus is same, that you have something called natural, you have something called man-made, and ICROM and Gail, the person who had made the chart, so he had made another, I guess, I can get a pointer. Oh yeah. So there is another category of it. So you have the natural and the man-made, and then you have the professionals, because it's seen that almost most of the damages are being done intentionally or unintentionally by the professional people, by us. I work in the conservation division. I can say that this happens in closed doors and also in open doors, because it's a major problem. Because we'll see in the next couple of slides that why it is a problem actually. So just the visual glossary of damages. This is light. We see light every day, but you think that installing better lights or more focused lights or track lights would help in, but you can see that. So this is light fading. So the EECROM chart that you see, so it has two type of damages. One is fast and drastic, that you can see in 2 minutes. Suppose an earthquake or a tsunami, you can see the effect of it instantly. But for others like RH, light, those are happening years over years, seasons over seasons, and you cannot see the damage in one day. It'll take maybe 6 months, maybe 6 years, maybe 10 years to see the damage. So this is why EECROM had divided into slow and cumulative. That's happening over a period of time, over and over again. And the second goes fast and drastic. This is because of temperature. I hope you all know about the acetyl laminate flames, cellulose nitrate basically. So they don't need a ignition as such. If they cross over 45 degrees of temperature, they are bound to catch fire. So they need a cold storage solution for that. You have humidity, and humidity not just leads to growth but also other types of problems as well. Once you have a beginning condition, it will sort of grow into something very you cannot even imagine. So mold helps in growth of biodeterioration. So for biodeterioration, pests will come. For pests, you have infestation, and then a whole series of problems starts. So the starting is very simple, but if you don't attend to it, so it becomes a complex issue as we go on. Pests, it's most common. Also, it's not that pests are very interested in books or the library materials we have. They are basically trying to survive of their own. We also have to understand that they are not really like even bothered about what's written in the book. They are just, of course. So it's always they're having a party basically. They found a whole storage. It's not attended for quite so long, and they just want to have a party.
Is it funded party?
No. It's not. Usually it's unsupervised party and not funded.
Alcohol is included.
Yes. Pollution, we don't need to speak about it because water, mishandling, and these are the disasters that you can do nothing about. There are some disasters you can do something about it. These are things that once gone is almost it's gone away. In the letter, in the image to the right, can anyone say what exactly has happened?
Color change.
So it's